Thank you for joining us at this hour. Here to provide you with the latest, I'm Daniel Choy. Well, more Seoulites are hitting the roads to get back to the capital in time to enjoy the end of the long Chuseok holiday in the comfort of their own homes. Here are the updates on the holiday traffic conditions right now. The current estimated drive time to get to Seoul from Busan or Mokpo, 5 hours and 10 minutes. From Ulsan, 5:20, Daegu 4:20, Gwangju 4:50, Gangneung 3:10, and it's a 3 hour and 20-minute journey from Daejeon. From Daegu and Gwangju, it's a 5-hour trip. The Korea Expressway Corporation says around 70,000 vehicles are expected to be packing highways across the nation from now until midnight. A new measure signed by the government last year adds an extra day off if a holiday happens to fall on the weekend. There are some confusions, but it finally took effect during this holiday period. Our Shin Se-min tells us more.
This Chuseok will be the first time the government is putting its substitute holiday measure into effect. Since part of the holiday falls on the weekend, in this case Sunday, it has been extended an extra day to Wednesday, giving many Koreans a 5-day vacation. But this extra day off has many people confused, as a lot of calendars have Wednesday, September 10th as a regular day, a day to go to the office. This is because the substitute holiday measure was only implemented in November of last year, meaning calendars for 2014 had already been printed or there was no time to make the changes. Koreans working for large corporations, public offices, and schools will therefore have the luxury of additional day off. Private enterprises get to decide themselves whether to follow the substitute holiday system, as they're not forced to follow the new rules. According to the Korea Federation of Small and Medium Businesses, around 60% of SMEs polled recently said they will not take the additional holiday off. However, regardless of whether they have 4 or 5 days off, Koreans have already planned out their schedules over the extended Chuseok holiday.
If I only had 4 days for this Chuseok holiday, I would have only been able to visit one set of my grandparents. But with the extra day, I plan to visit both sides of my family.
I'm taking advantage of the 5-day holiday. I'll go to Thailand. The extra day made it much easier for me to plan my vacation.
Experts say the government might have to look into making the substitute holiday measure compulsory for all workplaces, as those people heading back to work a day earlier than the rest are sure to make their disapproval known. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Korea's main rival political parties failed to break their long impasse over a special bill to probe April's ferry tragedy ahead of the Chuseok period. With the parliamentary speaker setting September 15th as a deadline to pass a long list of other major bills, the holiday provides a time of reflection for them. Our Choi-Yusun has this report.
Chuseok, or Thanksgiving here in Korea, is one of the few times of the year when families all around the nation get together. And the topics of politics and the economy often come up at the dinner table. The Korean people's attitude towards the government and the political parties this Chuseok season is rather complicated, as the political tug-of-war over a bill that would set up a probe into April's deadly ferry accident has paralyzed the parliament for months. Keeping our distance from parliamentary affairs, President Park Geun-hye instead has been looking after the people's needs and stressing that Korea must not miss out on the golden time for economic recovery.
우리 경제가 새롭게 도약할 수 있느냐, 아니면 정체의 터널에 갇히고 마느냐가 결정되는 중대한 기로에 서 있습니다.
This goes in line with the ruling Saenuri Party urging the opposition to cooperate in swiftly passing a lineup of economic and reform-related bills that concern people's daily lives.
We urge the opposition to handle other pending bills separately from the ferry bill after the Chuseok holiday.
The opposition, on the other hand, has been pressuring the ruling side to let the ferry victims' families have more of a say in the accident investigation.
For us not to continue the sit-in at Gwanghwamun Square and for the nation to return to normalcy, I urge the government and the ruling party to act.
Adding fuel to the fire, the rival parties, who have failed to pass a single bill since May, voted down an arrest motion last week for a ruling party lawmaker accused of bribery. With neither party free from criticism, public sentiment after Chuseok is widely expected to set the tone for what comes next for the ferry bill. Choi Yusun, Arirang News.
Seoul's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jung-guk is in Washington to discuss the resumption of the six-party talks and a wide range of other North Korea-related issues. His sudden trip suggests a possible change in North Korea policies. Our Kwon So-hwa reports.
Evolving conditions on the Korean peninsula is what made Chief Nuclear Envoy Hwang Jung-guk head to Washington on Monday local time for discussions on resuming the six-party talks on the denuclearization of North Korea and possible measures in response to additional provocations by the North. His sudden trip during the major Chuseok holiday period is arousing speculations that talks with his counterpart Glenn Davies on Tuesday could mean a possible shift in North Korea policies.
Suggestions on North Korea's nuclear weapons issue, as well as overall North Korean problems, need to be exchanged and discussed comprehensively.
Their discussions may also include sending a U.S. special envoy to Pyongyang to help release Americans Kenneth Bae, Jeffrey Fowle, and Matthew Miller, who are currently detained there, a possibility that Hwang did not directly deny when asked by reporters. The U.S. State Department, however, said on Monday that it does not currently have plans to negotiate with Pyongyang on the issue. Hwang's trip comes only about 3 months after his last visit to Washington and ahead of another important trip by National Security Advisor Kim Kwan-jin next week to talk about similar North Korean issues with his counterpart Susan Rice. The six-party talks aimed at ending North Korea's nuclear weapons program involving the two Koreas, the U.S., China, Japan, and Russia, have been stalled since 2008. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
A senior North Korean official says inter-Korean relations need to be improved in order to achieve unification on the peninsula. Speaking at a ceremony marking the 66th anniversary of the founding of the North, Premier Park Bong-ju said he will do all he can to overcome issues with South Korea and open a new path for independent unification without foreign intervention. He also said that Pyongyang will develop friendly and cooperative ties with any country that respects the North's sovereignty, adding that the regime will work for the prosperity of mankind, world peace, and safety. Moving on to other stories, there has been a massive surge in Korean land being bought up by Chinese property investors, namely on Jeju Island. The amount of land owned by Chinese has risen from 20,000 square meters in 2009 to 5.92 million in June this year. That's around twice the size of Seoul's Yeouido. This trend follows the launch of an immigration scheme in 2010. In accordance with that law, foreign investors and their families who have lived on Jeju Island for 5 years after buying property worth $500,000 are granted same medical, education, and employment benefits as Koreans. The Jeju provincial government and the Ministry of Justice launched the investment program to raise funds and internationalize the island. But the plan may backfire, as the alarming rate of Korean land being owned by Chinese investors could lead to new problems down the line. A 61-volume biography of Japan's former Emperor Hirohito provides proof that not all of the country's leaders viewed the Yasukuni war shrine as a source of national pride. According to Japan's Kyodo news agency, excerpts from the Annals of Emperor Showa, released by the Imperial Household Agency, portrayed Hirohito as being distressed for not being able to stop his country from entering World War II and established that he was used as a symbol to rebuild Japan. He died in 1989 after 62 years on the throne. Record also confirms in 1975, Hirohito stopped visiting the controversial war shrine because Class A war criminals were included there. In stark contrast, current Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe paid his respect to the shrine several times, most recently last December. U.S. President Barack Obama is set to unveil the strategy on combating the rising terror of Islamic State militants in the Middle East, and it won't involve committing U.S. troops to ground war. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
U.S. President Barack Obama is going to step up the offensive against the Islamic State. According to U.S. officials on Monday, the president will embrace a broader counter-terror mission than ever before.
What the president has said is his willingness to go wherever is necessary to strike those who are threatening Americans.
The new strategy will likely depend on the support of allies and will not involve the deployment of U.S. ground troops. Earlier in the day, Obama phoned Iraq's new Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi to discuss the growing insurgency. Al-Abadi promised to work with regional and international partners to strengthen his country's capabilities to fight the extremist group. Obama will outline Washington's game plan on Wednesday. In the meantime, the United Nations says up to 700 children have been killed or injured by IS militants in Iraq since early this year, including in summary executions. Leila Zarougi, the UN Secretary-General's Special Representative for Children in Armed Conflict, said the Islamic State attacks boys as young as 13 to carry weapons, guard strategic locations, or arrest civilians, while even using some as suicide bombers. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And now the weather. On Wednesday, the last day of the 5-day holiday for Koreans, expect a big gap between the daytime highs and overnight lows here in most parts of the nation. So perhaps it will be a wise idea to stay home on the last day and maybe recharge and regroup. And now let's take a look at the weather conditions elsewhere around the globe. And that's all from us. Good day and good night, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thank you for staying with us.